Trump doubled Obama's 2012 vote totals in New Hampshire, signaling that the GOP base is fired up for 2020.
All right, Team Rising is here. We've got Democratic strategist Michael Starr Hopkins and Director of Media at the Lincoln Network, Marshall Kosloff. Welcome to the show, guys. Great friends.
Great to see you guys.
So this caught Crystal's eye, and I think it actually indicates something that I've been hearing quite a bit, Michael, is that the GOP base is very fired up right now. A, because of impeachment. B, I mean, you see President Trump's approval ratings at record highs. I think it's 49% higher than where President Obama was in 2012. And it's actually gotten me thinking a lot about, more so than I already have here, about a Trump and a Bernie matchup and what that might look like. What do you think some of the dynamics that are being missed right now and what that type of political matchup could show, especially with Trump with a whole lot of money in the bank and doing quite well in those polls?
Well, let me first say, I think the Trump following has like cultish kind of following. It reminds me of like when Saddam Hussein would talk about how he got 99% of the vote. I mean, Trump wasn't running against anyone other than Bill Weld. So
yeah, but the
no, we're talking about the vote total.
That's
why it's important.
The thing is that, in the vote totals, like the turnout in New Hampshire as compared to other incumbents running same deal where there's no one else really on the ballot or there's like one token opposition, the total number of people who showed up, and you know what a big deal is, it takes time out of your day, et cetera, to bother to show up in a non-competitive race blew every other incumbent president out of the water.
I mean, his people are with him. He has very...
and he almost won the state of New Hampshire last time, actually.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I mean, no matter what, his supporters are with him. They're going to be with him. They turn out because they not only believe in him, but kind of have this idea that he says the things that no politician would say before. But Bernie on the other side kind of has that same kind of following.
Right, and that's why I'm so fascinated by how it's going to look.
Well, it's actually interesting because Trump had a rally in the state the day before the primary, and Bernie had a rally, and he was the only one who could come anywhere close to rivaling the numbers that Trump had of people who are waiting outside to come in and come from states around to be there as part of it. I also think it's partly a reaction to the media treatment of Trump, because the more that and this is similar with Bernie, the more that they attack him, the more locked in the support becomes. I mean, I saw this quote very early in the Trump presidency that I thought was really interesting. It was Rolling Stone, it may have even been Matt Taibbi who grabbed this quote, of a supporter of Trump that said, since he's been elected, I like him less, but I support him more. I thought that, I mean, it's so telling, right? It's I am with this guy. I don't care what he says or does because all those people are against him. I will be with him no matter what.
Well, this is the funny. Trump is fundamentally a defensive vote. And part of the reason that it's so difficult for people like me who are trying to change the GOP is that you can kind of graft, Marshall, whatever you want onto him, right? So you've seen these these free market conservatives who are like, MAGA means cutting taxes. And it's like, I'm like, well, I mean, that's not really what the whole thing was about.
America 1984 again.
Yeah, right. And so that is fundamentally what I'm so intrigued by is running against Bernie. And I was tweeting about this a lot yesterday and about how so much of the professional GOP is ready to run a socialism takes capitalism. I can't even say this phrase without giggling. Socialism takes capitalism creates campaign against Bernie, talking about how he wants to turn America into a place where people eat dogs like they do in Venezuela. And it strikes me that that is exactly the way to lose against Bernie. What do you think?
Here's the problem. From a policy level, I agree 100% with you. I want the GOP to change. I think I think Trump's best aspects are the way that he challenged the way the GOP used to think about these issues.
He changed the Overton window.
But here's the problem, though. The suburban voters, the Chris Matthews voters, who Trump needs to hold on to in the suburbs, where the Democrats cleaned up in 2018, those are the people who are going to be terrified of socialism. So that's actually what's difficult with the way because you said it yourself.
You're exactly right.
For Trump voters, voting for Trump is defensive. Well, if you're an upper middle class suburbanite in Virginia, well, guess what? A vote for Trump will be defensive for you too, because you're worried about a wealth tax, you're worried about socialism. If you're boomer, these things mean stuff still.
But I'm not sure that's right, because I actually look at it the opposite way, because the people who made up the indivisible groups and see Trump as an existential threat to the most dangerous president in our history, and we're all in on impeachment, they are the core of the vote blue no matter what movement. They are the ones who, they're with Pete and Amy now, but they will vote for Bloomberg, they will vote for Bernie, they will vote for Stott, whoever it is who comes out, they will be there to vote for those people. For me, the concern for the Democratic Party is, will you turn out those voters who stayed home last time? Will you get young people to turn out? To me, that's much more of a challenge. Like, college-educated white people are basically going to show up for whoever.
The question is, Michael, based on that, this is what because I've been hearing this case from a lot of people in the GOP. They said, Sagar, these suburban people, they've got 401ks. Yeah, they do. But Michael, so many of them find Trump so personally offensive from a norms perspective that I suspect Crystal is right, and that a large percentage of them make up a vote blue no matter who thing. They will even vote against their class interest because they find Trump so morally objectionable. I mean, I think that's all ridiculous and kind of funny and plays into this civility thing. But I think that exists. You know, the people who spent $100 to go see Stormy Daniels whenever they came through their town and love Michael Avenatti. There's a lot of suburban women who bought into this stuff. And so I think that even if it would hurt their so-called class interests, that they will vote blue no matter who. So it comes down to, as she's saying, about can he turn out the working class voters? And that's where I feel like the battle is. What do you think? What do you think?
I actually don't trust that people are going to vote against their self-interest. We keep saying that that's going to happen, but when you talk to people, it comes back to this, yes, I don't like Trump. Yeah, I think he's morally reprehensible, but my 401k is doing better. Oh, I have a little more money in my pocket. I don't really trust that when people get behind the curtain that they're going to vote against Trump, and I think that's kind of my big worry. Especially
people
if
vote against people. People are complicating the way that they vote, and this is like an annoying thing that the left always does to working class Republicans. Why are you voting against your self-interest?
Which they do.
People interpret their self-interest in a lot of complex ways. Trump, the interesting thing to me about Trump versus Bernie is Trump is a cultural phenomenon. He's almost like a litmus test. In the same way that guns have been a litmus test for Republicans for a long time, which is why you get so much of the population saying, yes, we can have background checks, et cetera. But when it comes to voting, it's like, are you with us or are you against us? And Trump is that. Are you with us or are you against us? And Bernie is also somewhat of a cultural phenomenon, movement politician. And that, to me, is why the dynamic between them could be so fundamentally interesting.
Well, for me, I don't think the debate is can Bernie and can Trump turn out their bases. That's why we shouldn't be talking about the Michael Avenatti caucus or the sort of MSNBC crowd. They're not going to decide the election the same way that I think Fox News viewers aren't going to decide. I think this is going to be about the way 2018 was decided, in that 2018, Democrats won the House because in moderate suburban districts, people hated Trump so much, were so disappointed that healthcare, they were able to swing. So I think the question for Bernie is going to be, will their natural aversion to Bernie's message, because there is a natural aversion here, that's why we're talking about sort of their class interests, will Trump coming in saying the following: the economy is great, socialism is terrible, don't take a risk if you're 401k. That is a compelling argument.
But they feel very much at risk under Trump too, though, because they feel this sense of he is a threat to this system that has benefited me, right? So there's a conflicting set of threats there. And look, we can't ignore the fact that of all the Democrats among the Democratic base, Bernie Sanders does have the highest favorability ratings. So there is a thin slice of Democratic elites who are very, very freaked out by Bernie Sanders. I don't know that actually translates down the line, in part because people are very cynical and they feel like, okay, yeah, he says he's going to do all these things. That's nice. Just get rid of Trump.
He's not going to be able to pass a lot of the things he talks about. If I was advising the Sanders campaign, I actually think he needs to do what Obama did after the Reverend Wright scandal and when he went to Philadelphia and gave that speech. I think he needs to define what he thinks democratic socialism is. I think he's allowed.
He's done that several times.
We
went to the speech.
Crystal and I went to the speech.
But not in the same way. I think Americans actually do like socialism. I mean, public schools, public libraries, the federal highways, TARP. I mean, we embrace socialism. We don't know it, and I think
you are right about that. And especially as we move forward, though, in this primary, I think you are right. I think, and John Nichols wrote this, and I thought it was really well said. He needs to ground it not in radicalism, and he tries to do this. Look, there's a proud history of economic populism in this country, right? The New Deal legislation. He needs to ground it not in Scandinavian Scandinavian countries, or in the words democratic socialism, but in FDR and the New Deal movement and a return to American values that'll make, you know, the like college-educated white people with the 401ks feel a little bit more comfortable with all of it.
Yeah, and this is why I think actually Bernie's a better candidate against Trump than Warren is, because Warren sort of couches her sort of whatever is democratic socialist about her. It's always in these wonky plans that can be sort of picked apart. Bernie is really good about talking about ideas, sort of the idea that values and so that's why I actually don't think he needs to sort of give a big sort of, you know, John Favreau type speech here, or Aaron Sorkin. Let's pick our sort of the same thing, I guess. But but the real issue is he just needs to consistently express these values and express that at the end of the day, the idea that people shouldn't go bankrupt isn't Venezuela, that isn't a gulag, and no one's eating dogs.
But Republicans are going to spend $1 billion defining what socialism is. And before they do that, he has to get out and define what it is.
My case is that $1 billion is lost no matter what. And
I mean, but it's like
they've been trying that playbook for a while now.
It's like
I mean,
what Democrats did to Romney, though. I mean, Democrats define Romney in BlackRock before.
You know,
it was partly true. I mean, he wasn't exactly the strip him down and fire everyone.
I think he actually
kind of was.
But not.
That's literally what private equity does.
Yes,
you know?
but not in the way that the Obama campaign defined it. And they spent so much money and got so ahead of him being able to.
There has to be a grain of truth to it. I think I think the election, if Bernie becomes the president, will hinge on cultural issues, and that is ultimately where the turning point. All right, guys, we're out of time, but great discussion.
Great conversation.
Thank you,
guys. We'll have more for you after this.